everybody. It's your girl, Tymika with a Y, coming to you from the newest and hottest podcast, the Tymika with a Y podcast show. And on today, I have a phenomenal published author, Mr. Jerry Davis. He is joining us virtually on today, and we're super excited to have him here. Now, before we get started, I know you're following me, right? But if you're not following me, baby, what is you doing? I'm going to need you to go and hit all the likes, all the shares. Go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you connect with me on Instagram, because I definitely want to connect with you. So without further ado, let me introduce you guys to the phenomenal published author who is on book number 2, 5 Dimensions of a Man Reloaded. Now, Mr. Jerry Davis was born in Chicago, Illinois, Chi-Town. What up, everybody? He grew up downtown in cities of Jacksonville, Florida, West Helena, Arkansas, and now he currently resides in the Memphis, Tennessee area. He is the father of 1 son, and he is formerly an educator in the Shelby County Schools and charter schools of Memphis. He is the author of 2 books, as I said earlier, 5 Dimensions of a Man and 5 Dimensions of a Man Reloaded. Listen, he was like, y'all didn't hear me right the first time, so let me say it again, right? He's a life coach, motivational speaker, podcaster. He is the founder and creator of CAP Podcast. Y'all make sure y'all subscribe to them on YouTube as well. He's also an entrepreneur. He is an alumnus of the phenomenal, the great TSU, Tennessee State University, with a bachelor's degree in computer science. He is grounded in his faith and also a huge sports fan of the Chicago Bears and Chicago Bulls, right? And the words that he lived by is, if you're going to be anything, be for real. What's up, Mr. Jerry Davis? What's poppin'? Thank you for joining us on today.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I pretty much just ran down your whole bio. But tell us something that we don't know about you that's not necessarily in your bio.
Oh man, I'm actually working on a 3rd book. And it's a fictitious book, so it's my first time diving into the world of fiction, since I've written nonfiction, kind of like self-help. So, and it's dealing with a couple guys from a man's perspective when it comes to love, the love of a woman. So, it's a lot of books out there that women write that are pertaining to that, which is cool. I decided to throw my hat in the arena, and so I'm actually finishing up on that. So for next year, it can prayerfully come out, because it's been a moment since I put out some literary work. So
nice. Okay. Yeah. So with that being said, when we log off, I gotta talk to you, because I have an idea, something similar or kind of in the vein of what you're talking about. I definitely want to talk to you about it. Maybe we can collaborate on it. So okay. Yes. I am all for Black men empowerment. Yes. I love it. Well, thank you so much again, Mr. Jerry, for just being here on the Tymika with a Y podcast. Now, for those that already know, I'm your girl from New Orleans, Louisiana, 504, taking over for the 99 and the 2000. So this segment takes us into our gumbo section. So Mr. Jerry isn't in the studio today, so I'm gonna pull his question today. Now, we don't know what's gonna happen, okay, because gumbo is just a bunch of goodness, all right? And so Mr. Jerry, I'm gonna give you a question. Let me dig a little deeper in here. Let me see. Let's see what we got from Mr. Jerry. Oh, okay, here's the good one. What is the best advice you've ever received, and from who?
Best advice I've ever received from who? Anyone?
Yes, from anyone.
I would say to no matter what happens in life, always keep your focus on what's next. Someone told me this when I was in college, a former professor of mine. He said, things are going to happen, good and bad. But as long as you're still breathing, you need to make sure you keep your focus on what's next. Never get to the point where you're just, how should I put it, you're stuck on what's happening now, because even though there's a now, there will be a next. And so that resonated to me. At that point in life, I was kind of like, okay, I hear him, but I don't hear him. But as I've gotten older, it really made sense. And that's from a business or personal standpoint in life, it made sense.
Wow. Okay, that's good. That's really good. And I think that, that's a oh, Mr. Jerry, you done just gave me a little revelation on the day. My God. Okay, so that's good because and it's so interesting you said that because a lot of times, as we go through life, because life sometimes, that we are so focused on what's going on right now that we don't realize that this moment right here is only temporary, and there's a whole nother dimension that that God wants to take us through. So phenomenal. Y'all listen, y'all better take notes. I'm letting you guys know right now. I'm gonna give y'all a moment. Go ahead and get your ink, pen, and paper. Pull out your cell phones, download the episode, because Mr. Jerry Davis is about to give y'all some jewels to live by on today. So with that being said, Mr. Jerry, let's go ahead on over to your book, 5 Dimensions of a Man Reloaded. When I initially heard the title of your book, I was completely blown away. Because like you said earlier, most books are geared towards women empowerment, self-help books. And this is the first time I've heard a book or read a book or even was introduced to a book that's so profound. Just the title itself is just beyond. It's profound. It makes you, when you hear it, it makes you stop in your tracks. What was that thing or that moment in your life that, brought you to a place to, well, first of all, before we go there, in your book, 5 Dimensions of a Man Reloaded, you talk about taking people on your personal self-reflective journey. And in this, you're about the questions and making discoveries in your own life in the areas of faith, family, business, and self. And then you said every man has the potential to achieve greatness, but in order to do so, he must have a solid mental foundation. Tell us about that, because I don't want you to tell us too much about the book because I want the people to go and buy it. But tell us about when you say that in order for men to be able to achieve greatness or at their full potential, there has to be a solid mental foundation. Tell us about that.
Well, I would say that's because, like the word says, as a man thinketh, so he is. And so that's so crucial. It's been that way since the beginning of time, but even more so nowadays with everything that's going on and every imaginable distraction, people lamenting off different things to pacify their problems, alcohol, drugs, just a whole gamut of things. So the number one, we pride ourselves, at least I do, and a lot of other guys who've been former athletes growing up or whatnot and working out, and that's good. You should for physical health, but that mental health is key as well. The mental health and emotional health kind of tie in together. So if your mentality is one of lack and stays in that form of lack, then how can you really appreciate abundance? You're going to operate from lack, and therefore you're going to start doing things that's detriment to yourself or to your loved ones. And a lot of brothers operate out of that. They may not purposely do it, some do, but even whether you're doing it purposely or whether it's not purposely, it's still something you have to address. And looking back in my own life, I know that I've went through a lot of things, from growing up being the oldest to becoming a young father, to going to school, college, finishing out college, and then going into the workforce, and a lot of things that have happened that challenged me from a business standpoint, from a personal standpoint. And so it just, from my own experiences and other brothers I came in contact with, if your mental is off, you're going to be a detriment. You're not going to be something that's going to be helpful to yourself or others around you. And I think a lot of times, a lot of brothers kind of push that off to the side, but you can't. As a man, you can't. You can't as a woman either, but you can as a man do that. And so that's why I said that in writing the book. Even this second edition, the Reloaded edition, just emphasizing that, because we hear all the time mental health Black
Yes.
community taboo. Yeah, you have your faith in God, but just like there's physical doctors when you're physically sick, you have therapists and counselors and coaches to help you when you need to get over whatever the obstacle is mentally. And if more brothers did that, there'd be a lot of healthier nuclear families, and I think a lot less violence, domestic violence, just violence in general. And the kids will see a blueprint of how to conduct themselves. Not that they can't see it from a woman or their mothers, but fathers are so crucial. Men are crucial just as well as women. It's a team effort.
Yeah, yeah. But I think you made a very valid point because men are, to me, how I look at it is that men are the lifeline of our communities. Women give life, but men are the lifeline of our communities, and I think it's so imperative that men are on the forefront of our communities. But like you said, it's difficult to be able to fully be who you are meant to be in your greatness, authentically at your full potential, when your mental health is a little lopsy, it's not necessarily there. And you said something. You said that in order for children to see, and you didn't use the word leader, but in order for children to see wellness, health, and mental wellness, the man has to be well. And so specifically within our communities, the Black communities, this is something that's rather new, for men to have that push for mental health, wellness. So for you, what was that moment in your life where you was like, I gotta get me together? Am I meddling?
No, you're good. Man, I've had many different moments, but I would say something that was pivotal as far as on the counseling tip was about 4 years ago. Relationship that I was in with someone who I thought I was going to marry, and that didn't happen. I went through the whole shebang, got the ring and everything, and
Who
so.
is helpful? Who is helpful?
No, but I mean, things happen. It didn't work out that way. She's moved on, and since she's got engaged, and I wish her well because she, there's no bad blood. Put it like that. But at the time, it affected me because I've never have gotten that serious with anybody to that point. And so I ended up having to seek counseling, actually from the counselor who's going to be our pre-marriage counselor. I asked him, did he do individual counseling? He's like, yeah, I do. And it was something that I needed because it peeled back some layers from childhood on up to being a grown man with issues of abandonment and other stuff that I didn't realize I had deep down in me. So once upon a time, I used to be that brother that used to be like, oh yeah, you go to therapy, that's good. I'm gonna talk to God, I'm gonna keep it moving. But you still do that, but it's okay and it's needed to talk to somebody, because like I tell people, pressure does two things: it busts pipes or make diamonds. And in that case, it wasn't about to make a diamond, not whatsoever. So a lot of times, regardless how taboo it may seem in our communities, we need to definitely seek that because it's we grew up. A lot of folks grew up with, if there's something going on in somebody's family, or y'all not talk about that and keep that quiet and all of that. That looking back and on hindsight, none of that was good. Right. And as people get older, it comes out. It comes out in different forms: physical abuse, mental abuse, substance abuse, all because for so long they dealt with stuff, childhood trauma, never fully got healed from it, and it manifests when you're an adult man or adult woman. It manifests. So, but that was the pivot point for me, going through that. Those 6 or 7 weeks of counseling, not only to get over that, but to just really uncover what that anger was. And it helped me tremendously. And I tell brothers all the time, man, if you need to talk to somebody, it's good to, you know, confide in someone that's a close friend, but it's okay to talk with a counselor, because this person doesn't know you, so they're not going to be biased in the how should I put it, the direction they want to, you know, or, you know, they want to lead you in, or give advice they want to give you. They're not going to be biased because they don't know you, but they're listening to you objectively on what's going on with you. So, you know, women tend to do that more than the fellas, but I think that some of the brothers are starting to realize that, hey, I need to get my head checked for real, because like I used to tell the young guys I mentor when I was in the school system, you can't unscramble eggs. Once you crack that thing open, once you crack it open and hit that hot skillet, it is done. Whatever it is. So that's just a reality, you know.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. And I'm so glad that you said that, because, you know, I'm a firm believer in therapy. I tell people all the time, God is the God of faith and he's the God of science. He knows that, you know, when he created us, some of us, you know, we needed a little extra assistance, you know, because I look at it like this. God is so miraculous that he anoints people to sing, he anoints people to preach, he anoints people to write, he also anoints people to be therapists. So for us that are operating in our gifts of singing and writing, we have someone that is close to him where they can not only help us to get across whatever we're dealing with, but they can also impart back into us. So listen, y'all, I'll be walking around here crazy because you don't have to. Jerry just told y'all to go and find you a therapist and get you some assistance on this thing that we call life. Amen. Amen. So we're going to take a quick break real quick for our sponsors. Ianu, we will be right back right after these minutes. Hold on. With Mr. the phenomenal published author of The 5 Dimensions of a Man Reloaded. Remember, he said it the first time, y'all didn't catch, so he had to come back and reload it and say it again. So, Mr. Jerry, all right, now I wanted to dive a little bit more into, we just finished talking about, you know, mental health and how imperative that is for men as the leaders of our community, as the pillars of our community, you know, to make sure that they are sound in mind. Whoever is in their space will eventually adapt to who they are. And so it is imperative, again, for men to be in good mental health. And you took us on a journey with your particular situation. And what was that pivotal moment for you? And I'm still mad at that lady, but I ain't gonna call her a heifer, okay? So we're gonna keep on moving around here hurting Jerry Davis. No, ma'am, we are not in the business of doing that, okay? All right, so Mr. Jerry, You were telling us about so you worked in the school system and you were talking about how you were mentoring, young men on how to pretty much or not necessarily teaching them, but encouraging them about their mental health. So specifically, like we said, for our community, that has been a taboo for a really long time. And I think probably within the last 2-3 years, it has been a really big push because we've had a lot of unnecessary suicides, within our community, people just really not being able to handle life, and taking their life into their own hands. And so I think that what you've written, The 5 Dimensions of a Man Reloaded, is needed for this moment. So my question to you is, what is it that you hope people get from this when they read it? What is it, what life-changing moment, or what do you want them to get out of this book?
Well, I want them to understand that even though I did this book, the first one was this is 2023, was 2015, and then the reloaded edition was 4 years ago, 2019. The information is still relevant today. It's that 5 dimensions of your life: faith, family, business or job, but I said business, love, and self. Those are 5 areas, or I say dimensions, of every man and woman that you deal with until your time is up on this earth. Your faith, unless you're a person that is that is not of any faith, any religious faith, atheist or something, then that's a whole nother story. But if you, whatever your faith is, whether you Christian, you Baptist, whatever it may be, Muslim or whatnot, your faith is something that you should, or you're rooted in, because you're giving reverence to a higher power, God. And then, of course, like I said, with your family, everyone has a family, whether you were born into a family with your mother, father, and siblings, as well as if you were married or even not married and you have children of your own. So you have the family. The business part, whether you're a worker at a job or you are an entrepreneur or you're doing both, which I know all too well about that. A man don't work, he don't eat. Or a woman, whoever, don't work, you don't eat. Love is one of those tricky bags, because it's two-pronged. You got to love yourself before you can love someone else. And then if you're loving someone else, then you're loving a whole individual, and you need to be whole. So you all can work together. And then at the end of the day, everybody was born in this world, and even unless you're a twin, but even when you're a twin, when you get ready to exit this world, it's just gonna be you. You got to wake up every day and deal with self. Look at the man or woman in the mirror. So I wrote this from those 5 pillars or 5 dimensions because every man can relate to that in some form or fashion. And if you get those 5 areas, you won't ever have it perfect. There's no such thing as perfection on this side. But if you get it to where it's operating like it should, then you should have a pretty good life and be able to handle whatever comes your way.
Wow. Oh, you said some good things. And like you said, it's not about perfection, it's about functionality. It's like you're able to just function. Moment of transparency. I've dealt with, depression for as long as I can remember. When I was a kid, I didn't know what it was called. I was just like, I just don't feel happy today, and I didn't really understand what was that thing. And now the older I get, it's like when I feel myself, going into that tunnel, I'm like, okay, what was the trigger? It's my mind, because I go to therapy every 2 weeks, honey, faithfully, and so for me, it's like my therapist was like, okay, what triggered it? What was that thing that triggered, that downward slope per se, and I think that because a lot of times people feel like, oh, life is great if everything is going good, if everything is perfect, if the sun continue to shine, and I got money in the bank and everything, but it's not like that. Sometimes everything can be going perfect and your mental health just takes a downward slope. So for people that are dealing with that in this moment, where their mental health is not necessarily functional, what steps or what tips do you give them in this moment? Because you mentioned about faith, and for those of us that do intertwine faith into our lives, or we weave it into our lives, that's always a pillar or a standing rock that we can lean on. So what is that thing for people that are looking to figure out, how do I get out of this slump? How do I reload my mental health? What would you tell them?
I would just say for them to take everything one day at a time, one day at a time, one step at a time. You've heard the term, the quote, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. Well, that is that's a proverb, African proverb, I believe, but it's true. You've got to do the small things in order to embrace the larger things. So it's taking the first step on whatever it is that you're dealing with, that's making you feel a way that you shouldn't feel. And whether it's physical, mental, combination of both, just like if you're dieting, that you're going to exercise, you're going to make time to go to that gym and sweat or do some type of physical activity, but also you're going to have to try to eat better and change the diet.
Right.
So when it comes to mental, some of the things that you may look at that's probably not beneficial, you might have to stop looking at that, or listen to whatever it may be, or being around people that all they do is just gossip. There's a lot of things that contribute to people having those issues that they don't even realize, because it's become so, it's become just normal. Like what's abnormal nowadays has become normal, and what's normal is abnormal to people. Or you hear people say what's right is wrong and what's wrong is right.
Right.
Because it's you see it all the time, whether it's social media, television, or people allowing themselves to hang around people who are, don't have the drive, and they don't have it. Misery love company.
Yep.
So if you got an ideal of trying to be a successful entrepreneur or artist or anything that's outside the box of your normal, going to your 9 to 5 or whatnot, and someone else around you doesn't have that same desire or drive, a lot of times very few people will be happy for you. So then they'll try to, sabotage it or bring negativity. If you constantly around that, you begin to absorb that bull.
Yep.
So you have to get from around it.
Right. No, that is so true. And it's interesting because, I used to hear when I was younger, they would say, you are what you eat. But the truth is that you are what you eat, but you also are what you see. You are what you hear. You are what you surround yourself with, the atmosphere that you place yourself in, and so because we are adaptable beings, it's so easy for us to adapt into those moments. So like you say, you have to be really cautious about the spaces you allow yourself to go in, the people you allow around you. Now, in some instances, we don't have a choice, right? But in the moments we do have choices, and even in those moments we don't have choice, choose to set the atmosphere and not allow the atmosphere to be set for you. So I was going to say something, but I'll say it this way. I love what you are bringing with this book, Mr. Davis. I think that it is beyond needed. I think it is much overdue. I think that this book, and just listening to you, and you just really share your heart with the listeners on today, is that this book right here is life changing. Was it that for you while you were writing it?
It was, because it allowed me to be disciplined enough to set out time to dedicate solely to writing on it. And as I was writing it, you know, and this wasn't even my idea for my, you know, my first book some years ago. I was supposed to put a collection together of all my poetry from my college days at TSU on up to like 2012, which I'm still going to eventually do. But I mean, you know, I was praying and we was doing the Daniel fast with my church at the time. And, you know, God kind of led me to write about this, and I just followed that lead. And I'm glad I did. And even though I wrote this actually, the first book actually in 2014, but didn't get it self-published until 2015. And then I did the Reloaded edition in 2019, and added some study questions in there for folks to have conversations when they read it. It just helped out a lot because it helped stretch my mind to realize, like, even though I know myself as a man, you know, as men, you're always steady evolving and growing, no matter where you at financially, or, you know, relationally, single, married, no kids, one child, bunch of kids. No matter what's going on in your life, as a man, you're always evolving and growing, or you should. As long as you're breathing, that should be happening. So it opened my mind as I was writing to realizing that, and never let anybody put you in a box just because of where you may be at right now. No matter who it is, whether it's your peers, whether it's somebody you romantically interested in, or family, or whoever it may be, because it happens from all those sources, you know. And a lot of men, they take that, and instead of using it as fuel to do something positive, it angers. It causes them to do the opposite. And so, you know, you gotta be able to turn lemons into lemonade.
Absolutely. Now, Mr. Jerry, I'm about to meddle just a little bit now. Have you found your good thing yet? Have you found your rib?
I can't say that I have. I haven't. Not at this point in my life. Not right now. I haven't.
Lord, okay, now look at here, ladies. Now listen. We got a chocolate drop over here, okay? That's still in search for his rib, okay? Now I'm gonna need you guys. Listen, don't y'all be inboxing him, okay? Or don't you do that. If you ain't got your mental health, what's the 5 dimensions? You're on faith, family, your job / business, your love life, or your love and yourself together. Don't be inboxing him. But now if you feel that you got it together, you feel the unction of the Holy Spirit telling you to inbox him instead of a DM, I'm gonna put his social media links right here at the bottom. Okay, y'all see that right there? That's where you reach out to Mr. Jerry Davis. Amen. Because we want Mr. Jerry Davis to find his good thing, his favor of the Lord, his rib. Amen. You know I'm meddling, Mister. You know I'm doing, Mr. Jerry. Now listen. Now listen, like I said, ladies, if y'all don't have your 5 dimensions in order, don't be in his inbox, okay? But if you're getting it together, now he ain't saying you got to be perfect, all right? But you got to be functional, all right? So if you're functional, right, and your mental health is functional, go slide him a DM, amen. But first, before say praise the Lord, amen. Then that way he know that the Lord sent you, amen. Now, Mr. Jerry, before we close out on today, please let everyone know. So I have your social media links. Of course, everyone knows that they can purchase your book through Amazon. But are there any other platforms so people can purchase your book?
Well, Amazon is where you can purchase it right now. And then, far as my services as needing a speaker, whether it's a men's group, a co-ed singles group, or at the schools or anything like that, that's on my link tree. That's posted linktree.com/Jerry Davis. Life coaching sessions, everything is on that. And then also, of course, my email address which is authorjdavis@gmail.com. I will be here in the next month or before the month is out, or have my getting a website for my business, because my coaching consulting is 5 Dimensions Coaching and Consulting. So, but in the meantime, that link tree is how you can book anything, any of those needs, coaching sessions, consulting, or needing a speaker, because I am ramping that up. And so I will be dropping brain drops on the
stage. Absolutely. Because listen, Mr. Jerry Davis, honey, God has given him a vision to help men get back to functional, good spiritual mental health, and we are truly honored to have him in our midst. We are truly honored that you heard and you heeded to the voice of God, Mr. Jerry, to create this. Now, you said brain drops, right? So I'm gonna need you to go and drop a brain drop for the listeners on today from the great published author, Mr. Jerry Davis. Go and drop us a brain drop on today, Mr. Jerry.
Okay, I would say this. When you grow up, some things you outgrow. So I'm going to say that again. When you grow up, some things you outgrow. In essence, no matter if you are a grown man or woman at this point, if you're still doing childish stuff that you did when you was in your teens or 20s, and you well in your late 30s, 40s, or 50s, that says a lot. You grown up, so some things you gotta outgrow. The manipulation, the cat and mouse games, the taking advantage of people, all of those things that you know is not right. You should outgrow that. If you claim to be a grown man or grown woman, as everybody say. So you could tell a tree by the fruit it bears. So I look at that even when I do every now and then decide to socialize and go out or whatnot. I just, I let a person tell me a whole lot about themselves by just observing and paying attention to what they say and what they do. So I would say that would be the brain drop. When you grow up, some things you outgrow.
In a nutshell, Mr. Jerry just told y'all to grow up. He said, grow up now. Don't y'all sit around here still trying to sell mixtapes at 55 on the corner of Poplar and Highland, okay? Grow up. Jerry said, y'all better grow up, all right? Now, Mr. Jerry, I know you said you are a life coach. Are you a life coach specifically just for men or just for women, children? What's your audience when it comes down to or not necessarily your audience, but your clientele for life coaching?
It's both men and women and young adolescents, because when I was in the school system, my last stint in the school system, which was last year, I was a behavior specialist. And so I dealt with, once the students kept getting in trouble, before the principal decided to hand down whatever corrective action punishment, they had to come see me. I had to contact the parents, but I had to talk with the students. So, I life coach for the men, women, as well as adolescents between 11 and 17, because when I was a behavior specialist, I was for middle school and high school. So my journey in education, I was a teacher, sports coach, football, girls basketball, boys basketball. And then the one position that I did like a lot was when I was a behavior specialist, because like I always tell anybody, in order for a child to learn something, if they got issues going on at home, that child is going to act out.
Yep.
So, they need to talk to somebody that's not going to necessarily be yelling at them, because most of them get immune to that. And so that wasn't my way I got my point across. They knew I was a grown man, but I didn't do all that yelling, and so, but that is the clientele. And like I said, on my link tree, it breaks down, what the sessions are and everything. But my, that's the audience that I serve: men, women, in young adolescents. Everything from personal development to the behavior specialist piece to conflict resolution, because all of that's needed. Now, if I encounter somebody and I see that they need counseling and not coaching, then I'm gonna direct them to that piece because I'm from the coaching aspect of it. But if it's something that's deeper that calls for counseling, then I know resources and people who specialize in the counseling piece. But as far as from the coaching piece, I think everybody, can sometimes use some personal development, getting out their head, getting out your head. We've all been there. And then conflict resolution. I mean, I don't, I can't speak to that of marriage because I've never been married, but I've been in relationships. I know things that I've done that could have been better. I definitely know things that opposite people done that could have been better. So when I'm listening objectively to people, I'm gonna listen to both sides, but then I can pinpoint on what seems to be the issue, who's not hearing who or listening to who, and whatever else it may be. But when I see that it's calling for counseling, then that's when I move out the way to direct them to the right resource.
Wow. Well, thank you again so much, Mr. Jerry, for coming and sharing with us your book, Five Dimensions of a Man Reloaded. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, and those in between, go and purchase a copy of your book today. Yes, it is. And listen, can women read it too, Mr. Jerry?
Oh, most definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
All right. So, ladies, listen, if you're trying to reload your life with your 5 dimensions, you need to go and purchase a copy of this book as well. And listen, you may not even need the book, but you may know someone who does need the book. Maybe there's someone that's getting ready to graduate from high school, they're going into college. Purchase a copy of this book for yourself and purchase a copy of this book for someone else. Christmas is coming up, and so we definitely want to start prepping our Christmas list. This is a wonderful book to add to your Christmas list because while we are celebrating Christmas, we want to make sure that we're also in good, functional mental health. So again, Mr. Jerry, thank you so very much for the brain drop. Thank you for the jewels that you have given to us on today. Thank you for this phenomenal book. Make sure you guys go and check it out. If you are looking to book Mr. Jerry for any speaking gigs, you can email him right there. The email address at the bottom, arthurjdavis@gmail.com, or you can go to his linktree.com/Jerry Davis. And do not forget to follow him on all social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook at Life Coach Jerry Davis. Now, Mr. Jerry, before we close out today, I know you've already given us a brain drop, but close us out with one particular tip from your book to help us ensure that we are functioning properly in our mental health.
I would just say, make sure that you learn from the past. Learn from the past in order to progress in your future. Everything that's happened to you was a lesson, whether it be it that it was trauma or if it was something that wasn't trauma. And so you have to take that and navigate from this point on, from the present on to the future, with that experience in your tool belt in order to be a better man or a better woman. Like if you went through all that and you don't come out a better person, then that was like wasted experience. So a lot of people don't look at it like that. But if it didn't kill you or it didn't take away your mental capacity to think for yourself, it just made you stronger. And at the time, it made it seem like it. But now that you on the other end of that, on the other side of that, it has. So you should be able to take that so you can learn what it feels like to be in that space that you don't want to be back in, and to be able to help someone else in their faith, their family, business, love, and self.
Wow. Well, thank you again, Mr. Jerry. Now, listen, guys, I'm going to need y'all to do me a quick favor. After you purchase your book from Mr. Jerry, I need you to go and light up his Amazon reviews. Post a positive review, give him 5 stars. We want to amp up his book because the world needs to see it. And the more reviews he gets, the more that he'll be able to be a part of that best-selling status on Amazon. So go and listen. I'm going to listen. Even if you don't have the money to go and purchase a book, go leave a review. Y'all know what I'm talking about, okay?
And I would say this before we get off. I will be at my co-host on my podcast, on the podcast Cap, Cultivate, Accumulate, Prosper. My co-host Erica Jackson, who was a guest on your podcast a couple weeks ago. I will be at her conference as a vendor. So I will have some physical copies of my book there, as well as, anyone who wants to sign up for any coaching sessions or want to book me as a speaker. So I will be there on August the 25th, if I'm not mistaken. That Saturday. Yeah. I will be there as one of the vendors. So definitely come out and support the conference, which is so definitely support our podcast. You've been a guest on there. And come out. I look forward to meeting some people, and we make this thing out. We thrive together, men and women, Black people. We know it shouldn't take a brawl for us to cheer for one another, but
right, a fold-up chair. We're gonna leave the fold-up chairs at home, okay?
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much, Mr. Jerry. Listen, you guys, go Cat Podcast. Make sure you go and subscribe to their podcast on YouTube. They'll have their next upcoming season is going to be launching, and new episodes are coming. So definitely go and do that. Leave a review for Mr. Jerry on Amazon for his book, 5 Dimensions of a Man Reloaded. Don't forget to go and purchase a copy of that. And again, I want to thank you guys so very much for tuning in on today. The newest and hottest podcast, the Tymika with a Y podcast show. We want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Iyanu Organics. We want to thank them for everything that they've done. And listen, if you are looking for an organic and vegan hair care brand, definitely reach out to them at www.iyanu-organics.com. Purchase your product today. And if you want to book a pre-interview with me, go to my website, www.imtymika.com. Book your pre-interview. I would love for you to be a part of my podcast, to come and sit with me for pink chair vibes, whether we're virtually or in the studio. I definitely want to connect with you guys. And lastly, got to give a huge shout out to our partners. If you are looking for someone to maintain your website or do your marketing material, reach out to Vibranium Consultants at www.vbrconsultants.com. If you are looking for a publishing company, a high quality publishing company, reach out to Curry Brothers Publishing at www.currybrotherspublishing.com. And if you are looking for party rentals, reach out to Inflatable Clubhouse at www.inflatableclubhouse.com. And last but not least, make sure that you're following me on all social media platforms. I cannot wait to connect you specifically with Instagram. Mr. Jerry, thank you so very much for just taking time out of your day to join us. I truly appreciate you for being here with us, for joining us. And listen, guys, Mr. Jerry said 5 Dimensions of a Man Reloaded: your faith, your family, your business, your love, and yourself. Because we want to make sure that we are functioning properly in our mental health. Because if we're going to do this thing called life, we might as well do it well. This is your girl, Tymika with the Y, coming to you from the newest and hottest podcast. Thank you again for logging in. Thank you again for joining us. Don't forget to find us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and everywhere podcasts are. Check us out, subscribe, make sure you're following us. As always, smooches and deuces. God bless, guys. Have a wonderful and a phenomenal day.